Hello. We're going to do something fun today. We're going to draw. I hope you have fun too. You know, one of the first times that a lot of people had ASMR feelings is when they watched Bob Ross do his amazing paintings. First of all, I want to let you know that I am nothing like Bob Ross. I am in no way on his level, but I do like to draw, and I thought maybe we could have fun together. First, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my sketchbook, because you can't draw without paper, of course, or something to draw on. I'm going to find a blank sheet, and we're going to draw. Now, I hopefully have set up the camera so that you can see what I'm drawing. Now, I want you to not be worried, because at first, of course, you won't be able to make out what I'm drawing. But as I begin to ink it, it should become more and more in focus. Now, I always thought that it would be fun to draw something that is unexpected. Because when you think about a character like, say, the Hulk, you think about him being strong, you think about him being unstoppable. So wouldn't it be fun if we drew the Hulk when he was at his weakest, when he was feeling, say, a little sick? So what I thought is we could draw the Hulk when he is sick in bed. Would that be fun? I think that'd be a lot of fun. What I'm doing now is I'm just sketching out the basic shapes. Now again, remember that I'm not only saying this because I'm modest. I truly am not an amazing artist by any stretch of the imagination. But I think the main thing to know about art is that it should be fun. You shouldn't hold yourself to a standard, because the only way that art can be hurtful is if you never do it. You should at least try. Now, the Hulk isn't my favorite character, but he's always a character that I've liked, primarily not because of myself, but because my brother, it was actually always his favorite character. My brother, shall we say, he had anger issues. He had anger issues as a child, and so he always sympathized with the Hulk. And when we were children, we were in a play, and my brother is physically much larger than me. He's a year, about 15 months older than me, and we, using, what is it called? That stuff. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm blanking here. It's food coloring. They food colored all of his skin that was exposed green, and they covered him with the torn off shirt and the purple pants. And I was Bruce Banner, and I was just walking along, having a good time, when another person came out and mugged me, and he threw me into a huge crate. He threw me into a huge crate, and guess who was in that crate? It was, of course, my brother. And my brother rattled the things around, made it to make a huge noises and everything, and then he burst out in his Hulk outfit, and he came out and chased off the mugger with a big rah. And it was such a simple little trick. I mean, I was only in kindergarten at the time, and all of my friends couldn't believe it, because of course I looked just a little bit like my brother, and so it was enough that they thought I had somehow instantly changed into the Hulk. But of course, that is not the case. Now, when you draw the Hulk, of course, muscles are important. Now, a really good artist would have atomically correct muscles. But we're not going to worry about that today. We're just going to have fun. We're just going to draw. What I'm doing is I'm working in the feet here. I definitely, when I imagined this in my head, I imagined him having a teddy bear, because I don't think there's just about anything cuter in the whole wide world than the Hulk with a teddy bear. Do you agree with me? And of course, at the nightstand, he'd have a little glass of water, have a little bit there, and he's got a little thermometer sticking out of his mouth. I'm going to give that thermometer just a little bit of a bulge there. And of course, a big part of what's going to sell this is that the Hulk is going to be green. So of course, when we get to past the inking stage, I'm going to have to color it if I'm going to make our little Hulk green. I don't know if you have a favorite character. When I was young and growing up, what I mainly did was I read X-Men comics. I loved X-Men comics. I loved all the characters. And speaking of colors, maybe sometime I'll draw one of the colored characters who have a different color. My favorite of those was definitely Nightcrawler. I always loved Nightcrawler because Nightcrawler just really was this wonderful, wonderful guy. Kind of giving him a little bit of jammies now. I thought maybe Hulk should have some jammies, maybe with like little unicorns on them. What do you think? I think we should go with unicorns, don't you? Hulk seems like a unicorn kind of guy. You get some tails on there. Yeah, we get some unicorns going on those jammies. They won't be too detailed, but that's okay because they're small. I always feel like when you're drawing a bedroom, nothing seems to make it look more like a bedroom than drawing the curtains in the background, it's got a little curtain, and maybe I'll just show a little peek of the window showing through at the bottom. Maybe the Hulk isn't so good at, interior decorating, so he didn't really design that too well so that the curtains didn't. Of course, he was probably Bruce Banner at the time, but I kind of feel like Bruce Banner is a little bit of a absent-minded professor as well, so even if that was the case, he probably still would not do that. I'm giving Hulk a big old cleft chin here. We're giving him a big cleft chin. I'm going to give him some kind of droopy eyes, and he's looking down at his bear there, and he's got a little ice cap on here to hopefully help him. Kind of looks a little bit like a nightcap as well. So we'll see how that actually turns out. Now, if I was trying to do a more professional drawing, what I might do is I might actually use a straight edge to give me a more straight thing. But we're just having fun here, so we're not gonna worry about straight edges. We're just gonna kind of make this nice and organic, and I'm gonna ink out the bedstand here in the background. Now, someone told me once that you should always try and ink the things in the foreground first, so you can block them out. Sometimes I get lazy and I forget that. I fear, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to draw the cap on the ice thing. If I was a really skilled artist, I would draw, and you could actually see the little lumps inside that would indicate that it's got ice inside, but I think we'll get the idea. That, draw his big old chin. You're drawing a strong character. It's often a very easy way to show that by giving them a very strong chin. Also, I'm making his shoulders really kind of pop out from behind his head, almost as if they are like over his head. When you have a crazy huge character like Bane or something like that, it's pretty normal to do that, but I'm just doing it a little bit here. Of course, he's got to have his blankie. And it's not quite covering him because poor Hulk, he's just too big to have that on all the way. But we're not going to worry about that. But what you'll see is as I continue, you're going to be able to see more and more of this. And the nice thing is because the 5 toes, as the way the camera is set up, at least my hand won't be covering it. That's the problem I've had sometimes in the past when drawing these, is that the hand is actually a little bit in the way, keeping from doing it. I like to draw little arches on the feet, just to kind of give them a little bit of dimension there, and draw his big old Hulk feet, Hulk legs coming out. We're going to give it just a little bit of a curve there in the blanket. And we're going to bring that on over. And then we'll have his other foot come out. We're going to have that hang over the edge just a little bit. We're not going to worry about the waves too much. We're just going to give it a little bit of a wave. Now, as straight as I can, but it's not going to be too straight. We're not going to worry about that. I'm going to draw the dimensions of the bed. Again, this is another area where if you were trying to get it right, you would have the perspective correct and all of that kind of thing. But we're not going to worry about that today, are we? We're just going to have fun. We're going to get that little headboard in behind, and maybe I'll imply a little bit of wood with some wavy lines there. Apply a little bit, have a little kind of circly things going. Go ahead and draw in this other head post. Go down, and then we'll kind of arch over. He's got kind of a classic head post. I like to think that this is the one that he had when he was a kid, and so it especially doesn't fit this big old Hulk guy here. I'm just going to get that on in there. I'm going to use a smaller technical pen to draw the teddy bear, and that way it kind of physically gives him a smaller appearance. We're definitely going to draw the little half semicircles for the bear's belly, and the half semicircles for his little stubby little feet. And I'm going to go back to my other pen, though, for the Hulk's fingers to kind of give them a thick appearance. Now, I'm not super great at drawing fingers on the other side, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to have that coming over there. Remember that this is just for fun. We're just doing a fun picture. There we go. There we go. Excellent, excellent. Now, I'm going to draw some big old button eyes for the teddy bear. He's got his little triangle nose and his smile. We're really making good progress. We're doing a good job today. Really happy with how this is going. I just pictured it in my head, and I just kind of hoped that it would work out well. I do like to draw superheroes in unusual circumstances. I found that when I have drawn superheroes, that tends to be what gets the best response, is when I do that. There we go. Making good progress. Now, normally I work a little bit harder on the inking in regards to the shading. I'll add a few more lines here and there and that sort of thing. But what I found is when I do, when I use markers afterwards, it wipes out a lot of my inking. And so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and ink those, do colored markers, and then afterwards I'm going to come and I'm going to fill that in a little bit more. Of course, we do not want to forget the Hulk's unicorns. My goodness, no, we couldn't possibly do that. I got his little unicorns there, and I need to leave enough space for myself so that I can color them at least a little bit. And that's something you'll find when you're doing your own art from start to finish. You start getting very careful about the different phases, because you know that you are the person who gets to do that. And sometimes that can be a bit of a trial. The perspective, on the other hand, is a little off. But again, we're just not going to worry about that. That's fine. Now we're going to ink in, and I'm going to have a little fun with my brush pen. I really do like my brush pen. Normally, I don't use it on background objects, but I think for things like curtains, it really gives them that kind of wavy look. I like that a lot. And now we're just going to come in here. I'm going to add a little knob to our curtain. Very nice, very nice. Add that knob to the curtain. We're going to add a few little lines that imply the curtain lines. Very good, very good. We're going to add a few little darks, completely dark spots, and these are the little pools of darkness that sometimes happen when you have a curtain. And what I want to do is have some of these lines go into that, otherwise it kind of looks more like a nostril than a curtain. It's pretty funny how that can happen. I'm going to use a slightly smaller pen. You'll bear with me. Now, when I first started, and I still sometimes use these for filling in blacks, I would use a Sharpie. But what I found is that while you can get really nice dark with a Sharpie, is that they really tend to bleed. They bleed in that you put it on the paper, and sometimes you'll get these unintentional little splotches with a Sharpie that I really don't care for. Now, some people I've seen are really just masters of it, and they can draw with Sharpies really well. But I am not one of those people. I am definitely not one of those people. I have not had good luck with it. So if you are good at drawing with a Sharpie, my hat is off to you, metaphorically speaking, because I own very few hats. I'm just going to draw in his little cabinet here. He's got his cabinet with his water on it. Draw a few little very simple drawers. Maybe have the pull for them in the middle. That would be nice. And we're just going to kind of gently... Now, one of the things that you can do if you do want to draw a straight edge, but you don't have one, is you can just lay your pen across and just kind of and go all the way across. Now, that's not going to be perfect because I don't have a ruler to get all the way across. So the next side is going to be a little off. But since we're coloring this, it's not really going to show up too much. Now, there's one final part before I get to the coloring. That's the erasing. I really like these kneaded erasers. I find that they kind of withdraw the pencils a lot better without kind of messing up the inks. Now, I do use these technical pens, and one of the reasons that I do is that the technical pens really dry very quickly, and just, literally within seconds. And so it's very rare that I actually end up smudging them. It does happen from time to time. But I'm just going to gently go through here. You listen to that. Get all those eraser marks, all those pencil marks. There we go. Ooh, missed a spot. There we go. Now I'm just going to gently sweep that down. Now, if you do this method, the one thing you want to remember is to make sure and sweep up afterwards. You'll get quite a mess underneath. Now, our Hulk is really starting to come together. Now, I know that you may not be able to see it as well, but what I'm going to do, just so you know, I'm going to take a picture of it when I'm all said and done, and I'm going to put that up at the end of the video so that you can see exactly what we're working with. But I'm kind of trying to move him back just a little bit so that you can see. And now comes the fun part. Remember when you were a kid and you had all the crayons and you colored and everything? Well, this is exactly what I've got here. I've got a lot of professional pens that I use. I really like these. I've got a lot of semi-professional pens that I use as well. What I like to do is use something that's not too crazy. And just test this a little bit on the top. This will be a good base for the Hulk, for his coloring. I'm going to leave we're going to presume that there's a little bit of light coming in from the other side as I color him. I'm going to leave a little bit of room for shading and such. We're not going to go crazy with the shading, but I think it's still going to look nice when we're all said and done. And like I said, I'm just going to leave a little bit of white there, and it's just going to imply that there's a little bit of light source coming in over here and hitting him. And of course his feet, if they're pointing downwards, they would primarily be in the dark. So we're going to do a little bit more shading with his feet when you do that. And I'm having a little fun with perspective here, that this foot is closer to the camera, so I'm actually making it a little bit larger. Now, really, in a realistic drawing, you wouldn't do it that much. But since this is a silly drawing of the Hulk, I think that's okay, don't you? I think we'll just keep that between us. Now, what I need here is a darker. Oops, there we go. Darker. I'm just going to kind of shade that in, and it's just to show that the the shadow is kind of falling on that foot. Now, there are lots of advanced techniques to this, and well, to be honest, I'm not very good at them, so we're not going to worry about that, but we're going to get a little shading in here so that the Hulk has a little bit of definition. This color would be a little bit closer to what, if you were a comic book fan, you would think of the coloring of the Hulk. But I also like the idea that, well, this Hulk, he's sick. And since he's sick, you know, his coloration is kind of off. So he's kind of like the way we would be gray. Now, of course, the nerds out there, like myself, know that the Hulk was originally gray. He was originally a gray, big old monster. But the truth is, you couldn't see him very well in those early coloring days. And so they just, without explanation, they just made him green. I love stuff like that. Let's see if I can find my regular black. I use this a lot. Now what I'm going to try to do is to not completely fill in his hair. Hulk is usually shown as having dark hair, but I'm going to try to leave some white in there to kind of imply that he's, you know, he takes care of himself. He washes his hair regularly, and so he's got a little bit of shine to his hair there. And I forgot this ear, so we're just going to fill. I'm going to do this ear completely dark because it would be on the other side. And then this ear, I'm going to use the original lighter color. I'm just going to do that ear right there. Very good, very good. He's starting to really come together. Now, what I like to do when I'm doing things like this is I like to have colors that stand out a little bit. So I'm going to actually use a little bit of orange here. This orange is starting to run dry, but I actually kind of like it because it's running dry. It actually implies that the blanket is a different texture, that it's maybe kind of fuzzy or something like that. And so sometimes you can use these things to your advantage when you're drawing. Now what I need is to see if I can find a darker color. I think this will do. Yeah, that's perfect. And this is just going to sort of imply the lines of where his body is. And again, we're going to leave this side a little lighter because we want this side to be a little darker to imply that's where the shadow is and where his feet are in front. We're going to have that be a little bit in shadow. Now, of course, there's no other color that those little unicorns can be but pink. We have to make those unicorns pink. So I'm going to give them the pink little unicorns. We'll leave their horns white, I think. Pink little unicorns. Oh, I realize that I haven't actually done a Hulk impression yet. So you say, Hulk not feel good. Hulk under the weather. Hulk need antibiotics. Now, normally I would not do a yellow and an orange so close together. I'm drawing his shirt as yellow because the orange of the blanket is too close. But what I'm doing is I'm adding a little extra shading here, as in because his body would actually, and the teddy bear would actually cast a shadow. And what that does is it also helps differentiate both of them, so they kind of look a little bit different. And I think that I kind of like the idea of drawing the ice cap as blue because it sort of implies water, don't you think? When I think of ice and water, I think of clear colors and blue colors and things like that. Let me see if I can find a darker. These are really dark blue. It's called violet blue. And that'll be good to kind of do a quick shade on the side here. What I'd like to do on the cap, though, is I'd really like to leave that mostly white because I can just leave it completely white, but I'm going to add a little bit of gray. I've actually got some cool grays here that I want to use in a minute. And I do want to make the teddy bear brown because he is a teddy bear after all. We're going to leave his paws white. Teddy bears often have white paws. I'm going to make him mostly a uniform color, and we got a little bit of the blanket snuck into the teddy bear's paw there, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave his face uncolored, because I'm afraid that if I color his face, it's going to just kind of bloop. It's going to kind of wipe out his face a little bit, because that's a very dark brown. I'm just going to draw a little pink for his nose. And you know, now I like that pink so much, I'm going to make his little paws pink as well. And I see that I'm missing one part here of the Hulk. One part of the Hulk here is not all the way covered. There we go. There we go. Now, what color to make his bed? Now, what I really like to do is to make his bed brown, but I don't want the brown to mess up the teddy bear, because if you have two browns right next to each other, they all kind of just boop together. And I've got these really cool Coptic markers that a friend of mine got for me for my birthday, and they're skin tone, but what I found is they also have a kind of a rich brown to them that's a different tone than the sort of regular brown. So I'm going to use that for the main background of his bed. I'm going to leave in plenty of white so I don't meld everything together, and what I think that'll do is it'll really help the teddy bear still stand out. I'm going to leave a little white around the teddy bear so that he is still looking good. And I like the idea that his bed is white, but I don't want to leave it just completely white. So I've got this really soft gray. I'm just going to kind of put in a little bit. I'm going to make it a little darker, a little heavier where his feet are, because that's where his shadow would be cast, and just on the edge of the blanket to kind of give it a little bit of dimension. But we're not going to go crazy with the gray. We're just kind of doing that. Now what I am going to do is towards the bottom, I'm going to make that a little more solid. And that's just kind of like his, bed springs. Imagine how strong a bed spring would have, a real bed spring would have to be to support the Hulk. Now, when I first started using markers, one of the problems I had was that I didn't have any light colors. All I had were kind of primary dark colors, and that was a bit of a problem. The reason is that they made really bad backgrounds because they just overwhelmed everything in the background. I thought maybe for a few things at the end here, we could also use some pencils, just for fun. It'll look a little bit different, but sometimes the pencils give you an interesting look, and I'm gonna see if I can use that for the background so that it won't just overwhelm the whole thing. I'm gonna go ahead and use this teddy bear brown for the things here. It's just doing a real simple color in, and I'm going to make his curtains a pretty neutral color. I don't want to do something crazy. What would be a good neutral color, do you think? Don't forget, shout that out, and maybe I'm hearing it through the ethos. You've sent it back in time so that I can hear that. This is an interesting one. I like this one. It is called PM 145? No. It's called Blue Slate. I like this a lot. And I'm going to use that. It's blue, but really, it's kind of purple. And the reason I want to use this is it looks kind of different. I could actually see curtains being purple, but I think it's also kind of a callback to the Hulk, because traditionally the Hulk wears purple pants. Now, there's a reason for that. In color theory, if you look, most superheroes wear primary colors. Superman has red and yellow, and he also has blue, and think of Spider-Man. He is also red and blue primarily. And so heroes tend to have those colors. Now, anti-heroes and villains tend to have secondary colors, and that's why you'll see the Joker wearing purple and green, and that's why Lex Luthor, when he puts on his power armor, it's purple and primarily green, and that's why characters like the Hulk, they tend to be green, and what kind of color is his pants? Why, they're purple, yes. Now, here's the part where I want to talk about the colors in the background. I want them to not overwhelm my drawing. I don't want them to just go crazy and just, make the background overwhelm. So I'm going to use a pencil here. And this probably won't even show up too well on the camera. But I'm going to use this pencil here, and it's just going to kind of fill in the background without overwhelming it. What I'm going to do is I am going to use it a little bit more where there should be a shadow, if I'm staying somewhat consistent with the drawing, the shadow. Very good, very good. And I'm going to go ahead and continue that pencil all the way onto the floor. But I really think I should use a different color for the floor overall. I can use that pencil to help augment the shadow that I've got off the bed and all of that. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to need to use one of my neutral colors. This one I really like. It's called Brick White. Now, unfortunately, again, it's probably not going to show up on the camera too well, but it's a really nice sort of indistinct color. And it gives it a little bit more dimension. And I've kind of used it so much that I've worn this out. I really need to get another Brick White. So I may need to augment the augmenting, as it were, and maybe use just a real simple, this is kind of a gold pencil. And I'm just going to kind of work that into the ground, just to kind of give it a little bit of distinction from the wall. I don't want it to look like he's floating in space. I do want to make it look like that this is carpet. Now, I mentioned before that I don't do a lot of the inking until afterwards, until I've already got that in. One of the things that I like to do, get my 5 technical pen here, is I like to show the carpet with what's called stippling. Now, stippling is not hard. In fact, it's really a lot of fun. And I found that stippling can be one of the easiest ways to show that two things are different textures. And what I'm trying to imply with the stippling here is that the carpet is kind of got a texture to it that maybe, if you put your hand on it, it would be a little bit rough. And that'd be kind of fun to show it as different. Now it's going to take just a few minutes here to kind of stipple it up. What I found was that if I used too small of a nib, like a really small technical pen, that sometimes it would actually break. It couldn't actually handle the stippling, and also it would be too fine. A really good artist will use very tiny ones, and they'll just do it thousands of times, and they can render these amazing drawings. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to concentrate right around the bed. And what that's doing is it's implying that it's darker right there. It's darker right where the shadow is falling around the bed. And of course, if we're in the real world, that would also be happening around his nightstand. So I'm going to do that too. What I also like to do is I'm going to just draw a little slashes here. Very simple. Around the border. What I really should have done was had 2 lines to show that there was like a little bit of trim. I just finished building a house, and I know more about trim than I ever want to know. What I'm going to do now is get my smaller size pen, and there goes that cap. I'm going to get that smaller size pen. I'm just going to add in a little bit more detail. We are almost done. We're almost finished. Gotten through this here. I sure hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, what you can do, and I'll throw it up on the screen, is you can email me at mrcorley@gmail.com, right there. mrcorley@gmail.com, and one, you can tell me if you like it or not. I certainly hope if you've watched this much through that you did enjoy it, but you can also give me suggestions. Recently someone gave me a suggestion for a show, not this one, for an episode, and I actually made it. I thought it was a good idea. I certainly won't promise to do that, but I will promise to read every email that you send me. So if you send me an email, I just want you to know that I will read it. I may not respond right away, but I will read it. And if you give me an idea for an ASMR that you would like, I will definitely consider it. And if it's something that I think fits the style of the things that I do, I will do it. And I always love feedback. What I've been amazed since I started ASMR is that even in the few videos that I've made so far, that so many of you have responded, and you've all been so kind. You've all been so kind and supportive, and that means a lot to me. It means an incredible lot to me that y'all are willing to do that. I'm just putting the last little touches on the inking. Again, if I had done this before, these little lines that I add, they just tend to get kind of wiped out when I do the the coloring. And I see that I have left off one important thing, and that is his glass. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to his glass here. There we go. And I could color in the top of it, but I really don't want to. I think it just kind of wipe it out. I'm just going to add a little bit of ink to show that that's the top. And there we go. And we are done. Now, I know that you can't see this as well as you would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this in after I'm done, and I'm going to put it up on the screen at the end so that you can see. I want you to thank you. I thank you all so much for listening and watching. And I hope if you're not feeling well like the Hulk, that you're feeling better soon. You take care and have a good day.